This is for John. The landscape with leaves and figure. Passionate love is temporary insanity, the Chinese say. That day I walked 9 miles in the bowl the hill makes, coming round and round, avoiding the road. Insane, I realized a few weeks later. At the time I sank by crepe soles in the spread of leaves, grass, needles, bedding down the path I took, describing every tree, bush, fern, each stone, leaf, stick, isolate, detail in the mind. One woman, it was icy, cold, my nose froze in the air. Lichen were dancing up 100-footed trees, the ivy dirndling up like glitter flint. I stood there planted firmly, and I could not feel the cold wind, rain, the ivy glinting savagely like mirrors on the skirts, the 6-armed goddess dancing a storm, wet. It was wet inside the forest, though no rain was falling. It was sliding down, and you, meanwhile, clear cross country from the snow packs of Vermont, 2 weeks, 1/2 a honeydew papaya moon, were eating while I rimmed the bowl the woods make in the penetrating silence between rains. In Oregon, insane, I realized a few days later, and I said, since you had not yet left because I love you. Yes, you said, I know that day. Let's go landscape with poets. Leaning over the footbridge, the Willamette River in thaw, you said John Berryman jumped off a bridge like this. Your office mate was there. He waved back, thinking, friendly fellow. John, hand raised, still smiling, straddled the rail, broke ice. Below us, hungry water current so swollen it appeared intimate, inflamed. We looked down river to the sea. So long I held you, feeling a stranger surfacing, then fear, an ancient species decimated in the wild, singing its last migration down through ice flows, huge, emotional, the killer whale, the heart. This is a longish poem, a little closer because I modulate too much to be this far away. It's called Landscape with Next of Kin, and I wrote this book that they're from. It's called Soie Sauvage, which is French for be savage or raw silk, depending on how it's spelled. But you hear it, it can mean either thing. I wrote it in the wake of my first book, beginning with O, which kind of brought me out from a community of 6 to the nation, more or less, and to my parents over in Greece. And they were not very happy about the fact that Newsweek was very interested in the fact that I was gay. And it was difficult for many, many years. So my father and I were very close. He was an orphan. He was raised by his village. And I was his first blood. And of the 2 parents, he was the one who tried to understand a little more, but had a hard time with it. So this is a poem to my father. Patra is a city on the coast facing Italy, and it's a big port for people coming over from Italy, and it's where my father was sent to high school. Imagine, Father, that you had a brother, were not an orphan singly, that you had a twin who moved away when he got married, had a kid, a similar career, whom you had not seen, but heard from frequently for 30 years. Imagine meeting him some evening somewhere, familiar to you both, not in the village, but by the sea, perhaps. You have been talking for hours and for many days at ease, and the proprietor's gaze. He is young, you are old. He could have been a soldier in your regiment, that northern province, not so long ago. Perhaps he is, you are. Here this evening, you and your brother seated at the damp alloy table, rusting in some seaside patra of the mind, identical, sighting the prow of the ferry from Brindisi. Perhaps a woman bows out from the throng of tourists, very feminine and very strong resemblance to this man, your brother. You have never married yourself. Tonight, are you sipping the weak milk of your ouzo, having heard everything, at ease, on the other side of the customs, waiting for his daughter, your first blood kin? Is there anything in the love you feel, swimming toward him as you did, 9 months, one heartbeat, pounding like an engine in those waters? Is there anything you won't forgive her, him? And I was listening to a conversation about those first two images, the not yours, the top and the bottom, and I don't know if I overheard the story correctly, but in the top, the woman in the photograph is thinking, not yours, wistfully. And that's the emotion after a while of feeling that. And in the bottom one, she's thinking, not yours. This poem is somehow somewhere in the middle of those. And it's always somewhere in the middle. It's called Landscape with Driver. It begins with a metaphor. So I've got condolences for the way, for the beginning image. Landscape with Driver. I got my tubes tied on the coast, rode to Astoria today. It was chilling, driving, the weather windy and the sea bright gray. I was alone in the car. I was thinking, once again, I say yes, believing you will not harm me, having no cause to believe such things. I thought I was being brave. The sea hissed openly, the road through curves. You were back with your father, extending the hearth, palm-sized pebbles in your hand, a blunt, like your language, weapon. I drove toward the center, for battered women to read my work, believing you will not harm me, having no cause, no part of that work. I had no bruises. I kept on driving, hugging myself around the wheel and driving faster, forcing my attention to the road. You were the only man I made exceptions for, believing, wanting to believe we still could cleave to each other, married, soul on soul, sloughing our politic bodies. It's always in the middle, though. So this is also for the same person, 20-odd years later. Tryst. The human cunt, like the eye, dilates with pleasure, and all by joy never named, now are priceless in the magnitude of the stars. From R to R, have to have, beat sub-eternal. By day, I found these on the beach for you each day, and give. By night, remind me, I have forgotten. Action replied by action, piece by piece. take you in all light and lull you on a sea of petals flowers whose petals have mouths, mesmerized centerfold, upsweep toward sleep. These are very, very small poems. They're called lumens. You buy a light bulb, it says on the side, so many lumens. They're little measures of light. And they are very, very, very small. Sometimes the title is as big as the poem. And they're prefigured by a fragment from John Cage. And he says, there are no secrets. It's just we thought that they said dead when they said bread. Oh Lord, I love when you take over her eyes and pierce me with your sky. The knife. Love of life, I promise to remember you. Each time we meet is the last. The bird. To make poetries possible at home, even briefly, in the human wild. Each love. Parallel. Infinite. Unequal. Nirvana stare. I come from small seas littered with playful mountains. Feel how my heart is shaped by that sheltering. Tattoo. A child is a lonely thing to put in prison, without a lover, lonely in its parents' care. Bridge. A song unhinges bitterness, easy enough from sorrow. A vowel litany with stops to pass until the most ordinary is not. It's my Buddhist poem. After yes. To build the chair. To build the chair. To build the chair. To sit. To sit. Witness the mystery. World. Privacy. There's no word for privacy in Greek. No concept either. It's like, you got a letter from so-and-so, you want me to read it to you? Privacy. Finally, the only one I want to caress is you. You watch the changing light across the sky. I watch your eyes. Teacup. Flared at the lip like clematis. One swallow. Raised bottom where the sugar sleeps. The separation. Where desert boulders cleave, two stars. Small in the V, large up above. Where last I slept with you, the tide eases the mark. Devotee. I am grooming the body and rays of the sun that will rise on the day you return. The return. As when setting a candle in the molten wax of the one burnt low in the hot candelabra. The crowning. Baby, I call you. You in me as if. Chaste. Asleep. Mouth to mouth. For an hour. poem for Provincetown. They're all poems for Provincetown. I lived here when I wrote most of them, till the very last section. It's called The Choir. I lived over on the West End. I walk and I rest while the eyes of my dead look through my own. Inaudible hosannas greet, the panorama charged, serene, and almost ultraviolet with so much witness. Holy the sea, the palpitating membrane, divided into dazzling fields and whale dark by the sun. Holy the dark, pierced by late revelers and dawnbirds, the garbage truck suspended in shy light, the oyster shell and crushed clam of the driveway, the dahlia pressed like lotus in its open palm. Holy the handmade and created side by side, the sapphire of their marriage, green flies and shit and condoms in the crab shell rinsed by the buzzing tide. Holy the light, the poison ivy livid in its glare, the gypsy moths festooning the pine barrens, the mating monarch butterflies between the chic boutiques, the mermaid's handprint on the artificial reef. Holy the we, cast in the mermaid's image, smooth crotch of mystery and scale, inscrutable until divulged by God and sex into its gender. Every touch is secret intercourse with angels as we walk, proffered and taken. Their great wings batter the air. Our retinas bloom silver spots like beacons. Better than silicone or graphite, flesh absorbs the shock of the divine crash landing. I roll my eyes back, skylights brushed by plumage of detail, the unrehearsed and minuscule, the anecdotal midnight themes of the carbon sea where we are joined, zinnia, tomato, garlic wreath, crowning the compost heap. Here's one that's the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's called Offertory. It's from my mother. Holy the untouched mothers beating their shining girls. Like passengers in a speeding car, step on an absent brake, they break into our spirits driven to seizure unto death, then calm but dumb. Our starving, deaf-mute relatives whose urgent simulacrum meets no equal eye. Holy the straining eye of girls whose bones have broken some household instrument awry from its simple task, hair to be brushed, clothes hung, cloth measured, food, God Almighty, waiting to be cut. There is a native flowing of love towards one's mother and father, if he's there. What's broken in the beaten child is a transparent channel from its heart to the punishing armor. Holy the earthly afterlife amid the sea of shards, offering the ungiven. The woman casting armloads of net behind her boat at midday will not stop. Even supine, on fields abud with chamomile in northern Minnesota, under the moon's eclipse, we see her traverse the penumbra in a blaze of light from wet and muscled forearms. She is blinded in one eye and can bear on her leather patch the unmuted decibels. It's called Grace, for all our parents. air through which invisible birds are flying conducted us. You show me everything, not only what you know. If I quiet myself by unclanging the obvious. Sleeping poorly, I have your skin. Overnight, a field expanding on the tongue, extinguishing the sentence. The shape of your hands and feet, undefended, has schooled me. Arresting melancholy, seeking to touch slavery with medication, art calms. Thank you.
Well, what a gift. Thank you all so much. I hope you will stay a while, look at the art. We've got plenty of Prosecco and snacks left. Enjoy. And, having you all here, this show, and having Olga read, it just really warms my heart. What a beautiful evening. Thank you.
Awesome.